What's up, fight fans? Thank you as always for passing by the channel. Much appreciated. All right, so interesting video, this one. If you don't agree with the video, please leave the names of your fighters that make your list. But these are my 5 fighters that I'm very interested to see what they do in 2019 for various different reasons. And we'll get to those reasons in a minute. But these are my 5 fighters to watch in Britain for 2019. All right, in no particular order, the first one is Josh Kelly. I have to admit, guys, I've not watched too much of Josh Kelly. I've not really followed the hype, so to speak, but I think it's fair to say that this kid is a bit special, right? He's a bit special. He's got a bit of arrogance about him, and he almost follows that mold of Adam Booth fighters. When I think of Adam Booth fighters, the first 2 fighters I think of, and I'm sure it's the same 2 fighters you guys think of, are George Groves and David Haye. And it's fair to say, coming up, those guys had so much arrogance. And I don't think that's a bad thing, by the way. I think that's a good thing in boxing if you can have a bit of arrogance. It shows a level of confidence you've got, and he has that. He has that. He's clearly got boxing ability, and I think some of the names that he's being linked to, or some of the names that Adam Booth is kind of saying he would happily fight, like Amir Khan and Brook, shows where Adam Booth thinks this guy is. And I think it's going to be a very interesting 2019 to see where he does go. Does he go to that world fringe level? Does he go to world level in 2019? Possible. He fights on Kell Brook's undercard December 8th. Obviously, he takes on a fringe world level guy there, a former world champion. So it'd be good to see what he does against him. I still think there are question marks. Obviously, he's not fought anyone in and around the top 30 yet. So there are question marks. But if he does come through that December 8th test unscathed, it'll be very interesting to see who Eddie Hearn matches with him in 2019. The welterweight division we know is stacked, always is stacked. He struggled to get names for Kell Brook when Kell Brook was a world champion. So it'll be good to see what they can do with Josh Kelly in terms of matchups in 2019. But I can't lie to you guys, I'm super intrigued as to what this guy can do. He looks a bit special, but I've seen that before with so many British fighters coming up and then they fail to kind of live up to the hype. Can he live up to the hype in 2019? We'll soon find out. Again, this is in no particular order, but my next guy that springs to mind, Lawrence Okolie. He gets a lot of stick. He gets a tremendous amount of stick. I've given him stick. I've seen some performances that are good. I've seen some performances that are absolutely shocking. I think if you think of his last 3 fights against Askin, Luke Watkins and Chamberlain, he only looked good in one of those fights, and that was against Luke Watkins. He looked awful against Chamberlain, and he stunk out the place against Askin. But he's unbeaten. And he's cleaned up the British cruiserweight division in 3 fights, right? There's a lot to come from him. There's a lot to come from him. He's unbeaten. He's an Olympian. And I think it's fair to say he recognizes there are problems he needs to fix. If he can fix those problems, if he can find an inside game to go with his power, 2019 is going to be very, very interesting. Remember this, Usyk, and I'm not trying to say he's going to win a world title before I say this, but Usyk, once he goes to heavyweight, throws away 4 belts. Gassiev has gone to heavyweight. Bradus didn't look too good in his recent fight. There are other cruiserweights around, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't be shocked if at the back end of 2019, we're talking fringe world level, maybe even fighting for a world title. I wouldn't be shocked. If he can fight early 2019 and get 4 fights in throughout the year, don't be shocked if Okolie fights for a world title back end of 2019 or early 2020. He trains obviously and spars with Anthony Joshua, so he's in a good camp there. Tyson Fury's called him into his camp for the Deontay Wilder fight. So look, people can see there is something about him. I wouldn't be shocked if Okolie does something special 2019. So that's the next one to watch. The next guy on my list, massive question marks. And 2019 has to be big for him, Anthony Yarde. I've done a couple of videos on Anthony Yarde where I say, look, I just don't know how good he is. I really don't. But I think we're going to find out in 2019 either way. Frank can no longer put him against guys that we don't know. Frank can no longer put him against guys that he just knocks over in a round or 2. He has to step up a level. Whether that means fighting the Brits in terms of the likes of Buatsi, which I don't think he's going to fight, but the more likely ones are Buglioni, Callum Johnson and Jose Burton. If it's fighting them or if it's fighting some fringe world level guys, he's going to have to take the risk and roll the dice on Yarde. And I think he will do in 2019. I just don't think the fans are going to accept anything else. That's why it's going to be so interesting. We're going to find out all the answers to the Yarde questions in 2019. Whether or not he's good, whether or not he can go on to be a world champion, or whether or not he's just British level and all hype. Don't tell me you're not excited to see what this guy can do, because I am. So far, he's rolled over everybody. And it wouldn't shock me if he runs through the likes of Callum Johnson, Buglioni, and Jose Burton. Buatsi is a different kettle of fish, but it wouldn't shock me if he runs through those guys. And I feel like 2019, he's going to have to fight one of those, and then we're going to find out whereabouts he is. Because again, right now, I've absolutely no idea. All right, the next one might shock you guys, but I think he still might have a good 2019. That's Ritson. I think he was rushed. I honestly do think Eddie Hearn saw the way he dealt with the British level guys and rushed him a bit, right? He was headlining his own shows in Newcastle. They even had that sit down with Alan Shearer, and I thought a lot of pressure was put on him too quick. If you watched the Scott Caldwell fight, most of you probably looked at him and thought, okay, a knockout round 2. I saw massive holes there. I saw Scott Caldwell land a couple of shots, and I remember thinking, if he fights someone a bit better than Scott Caldwell, he could have problems. And that's what happened, right? He went up to European level and he fought someone a bit better, and he got beat. And in the end, I think he got beat quite comfortably. But there's something there. There clearly is some talent there. He can definitely hit. I just think they need to work on his boxing ability a bit. And what I'm going to say next, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I think he's trained by his father. And I think his father's taken him as far as he can go. And I really do mean it. And there's no shame in that. I think his father's done a great job. But look, when you get a fighter that moves from British level to European level to eventually world level, where I think he can get, there are world level trainers as well. There are British level trainers, English level trainers, and there are world level trainers. And I think his father could just be a British level trainer. And again, I don't mean any disrespect by that, but I think there's a talent there that needs to be nurtured and trained by a world level trainer. I really do believe that. And I think if he can get a world level trainer, I think we still might see something special from Ritson. I think that he's got enough things I've seen so far to know that he can go a long way in boxing. So 2019, I think is going to be very interesting for him if he can switch his trainer. I think someone like a Rob McCracken could be good, or someone like an Adam Booth, who I think could improve his foot movement and his footwork and his hand speed. Forget headlining shows, forget sit downs with Alan Shearer. Just focus on your boxing, and I think there still could be a good 2019 for Ritson. The main one, and the guy that I really can't wait to see what he does in 2019, is Josh Taylor. Of all the boxers I've mentioned so far, he's the one that really impresses me the most, because I think he has a bit of everything. He can clearly box, I think we know that. He can punch now. He's spiteful. And I think with him being in the World Boxing Super Series, there's a chance that at the end of 2019, this guy could be the best 140 pounder in the world. And that is just unbelievable, especially when you consider this guy's had, what, 13, 14 fights? So we're talking about a guy that could almost do a Usyk, right? We're talking about a guy that on his 15th or 16th fight could clean up the division, which is incredible. And I think this is a division right now that he's capable of cleaning up. Remember, this isn't a division that has Terence Crawford in it anymore. This isn't a division that Lomachenko's going to go to. This isn't a division that Mikey Garcia is going to be in. This is a division that I think is there for the taking. And I think it'll be fantastic for Scottish boxing and obviously British boxing if we can have a guy in British boxing that is clearly the #1 in the world. And I don't think we have that right now. I think people might say Joshua, but there's always going to be an argument with Joshua and Wilder. Josh Taylor, however, has a chance at the end of the World Boxing Super Series final to say, you know what, I'm #1. And I think 2019 for him could be very, very special. All right, so there's my list. Anthony Yarde, Ritson, Josh Kelly, Josh Taylor, and Lawrence Okoli. Leave your names below. Let me know what you think about those. And let me know what you think about where everyone could go in that list as well. Peace.